at a bar.
Yesterday.
We had one
Connolly.
yesterday.
And the bosses, the producers told us all the hosts had to be there. It was originally going to be at noon. It got moved up to 11 because of Pete, because he had stuff to do. So they said, everyone's got to be there at 11. Were you guys there at 11?
No, because I had something to do at 11, but I went at 12, and it was so packed. And it was so young. I was like, I'm too old for this crowd.
I was the only one there at 11. The only one. Okay, they had the wrong address because there's multiple Connolly's bars.
Maybe I went to the
it's
wrong
not on
Connolly.
47. This is
a
on
list
45.
of grievances from Ed
The
Henry.
invite did not mention which floor it's on. This bar has 5 or 6 floors, and each floor had about 6 million people because they had the St. Patrick's Day parade a block away. So
It was not well done, you're saying.
ended up leaving.
You left?
It was poorly produced.
Poorly
by our
produced. That's what
producers.
Ed likes to say.
Poorly
produced.
anyway.
It is St. Patty's Day. Thank you for being here. You know what? It commemorates
hat.
the arrival of Christianity to Ireland in the 5th century.
I feel
Absolutely.
like
And
you were studying on the way to work.
Oh, of course
We had
I
a quiz
did.
today.
Yeah, because we're having a quiz. I want to say, first of all, happy St. Patrick's Day to my husband. He's a Sean Patrick. To my son, who is Patrick, and to my brother, another Patrick, and his brother, another Patrick. So lots of Patricks
that's
in my
pretty big.
family.
You got it.
My son Patrick as well. So
We're gonna be
happy
having
St.
fun.
Patrick's Day.
All morning.
Someone who is Irish.
He is
and
Irish, isn't he?
Joe Biden,
Yes.
former vice president, former Senate Foreign Relations Committee chairman, brings a lot of credentials potentially to this 2020 race. Not in yet, although last night, if you listen closely, it sounded like he was in.
Very, very close. At an event in Delaware, he said this.
Folks, I know I get criticized. I'm told I get criticized by the new left. I have the most progressive record of anybody running for the anybody who would run. I didn't mean. With anybody who would run.
That is what you call in Washington a Washington gaffe. He meant to say that. I think what this is in translation into regular terms, people's terms, is don't fall in love with Beto yet. I'm still going to get in. And
Well, why
he
hasn't
wants
he-
people to know that.
Why is he flirting? Like, why won't he just get in? Everyone knows he wants to. He said he's 95, 99%. He was in the Caribbean for a couple weeks trying to figure it out.
It's called buzz. It's like buzz.
Yeah,
it's like
maybe
you
he's
really
building up.
want me. You
Maybe.
really want me to do this. It's like a way to create more attention.
But meanwhile, Democratic hearts may have already found the one they fell in love with, right? With
think?
Beto O'Rourke. And it's an interesting
don't
story
know.
because we've heard all this love fest by some of the media. Oh my gosh, this might be the second coming. This is amazing. And now we're learning a little bit more that Reuters busted this story out there a couple of days ago saying that he was part of a hacking group some years ago. And everyone's wondering, where did this come from? How did Reuters get that story? Well, they're now admitting they knew about this during his Senate campaign in 2018 against Republican Ted Cruz and agreed to hold it back until after the election.
Wait, reporters holding stories back on behalf of Democrats?
Right, add that to your list of things that never happen to Republicans. It never happens. There's no way before, and that was such a heated race, that
Only a
Texas
couple of
race.
points separated them.
And they obviously held that to help him. Now they say, in Reuters' defense, they said, well, we agree. Beto agreed to get give us an interview if we held it. That's why we held it. But let's be honest, they wanted that. They wanted that seat.
Yeah, so Reuters now reporting, this is what they're saying about Beto O'Rourke. He was running against Ted Cruz. In an interview in late 2017, O'Rourke acknowledged that he was a member of the group. The group's called the Cult of the Death Cow, on the understanding that the information would not be made public until after his Senate race against Ted Cruz in November of 2018. So they held it. Now he's running for president. Now they're talking about it. Again, the group was called Cult of a Death Cow. His alias in the group, Psychedelic Warlord. He was a teenager. Let's remember that.
Fair.
This is why, sorry, Nancy, teenagers who are 16 probably should be voting. Cult of the Death Cow,
they joined
Psychedelic
things
Warriors.
like Death of the
But they held it back. Now, Beto O'Rourke, now that he's running for president, had to respond to that. And here's part of what he said to the Texas Tribune. He said, not anything that I'm proud of today. I'm mortified to read it now. Incredibly embarrassed. You know, Barack Obama did the original apology tour. It appears Beto is on the 2018
the first
version.
48 hours of his campaign rollout apologizing
So you have
for
to
that, some
imagine-
of his old writings about
Yes.
running over kids and all this nonsense.
If you're Ted Cruz, you got to be annoyed. I mean, especially had he lost, this would have been horrible. But Here's what Ted Cruz tweeted. He said, so Reuters had evidence in 2017 that Beto may have committed multiple felonies, which Beto confirmed on the record, but deliberately withheld the story for over a year to help him win his Senate race. But when he's running against Bernie, etc., now it's news?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The idea being that maybe some of the mainstream media want Beto to be the nominee, and they want to, as we've been talking about for the last 2 weekends, the establishment doesn't want Bernie Sanders.
If you polled your friends in the media and asked, would you prefer Beto or Ted Cruz, would it be 95-5 or 98-2?
I might even go for Beto.
Get out of here.
Wait, you're not a Ted fan?
He also is apologizing to the apology tour for his white privilege time and time again. I mean, this is the nomination process that he's a part of. He's a white young
He was
guy.
running this 5K around St. Patrick's Day. Obviously, see all the green there. Look, contextually, there are times that journalists hold something back after an election. If you're working on a book, say, and I think this reporter said he was working on some kind of a book, right, that's coming out soon. But what I would say is a journalist might say, okay, I'll hold it if you're letting me inside the strategy, and we're going to hold back the strategy, you know, like I'm inside the room, because if you reveal that during the campaign, it might impact the campaign. You hold that back later to say what happened in the campaign. I haven't heard of a case where you hold back something from their past that could impact the campaign. It looks like you're helping somebody.
Interesting.
It's not the only thing he apologized for. He apologized also because he made a flippant comment about how his wife helps, raises the kids. Listen, as the wife
I forgot about that one too.
Yeah, as the wife of a member of Congress. Listen, he was running a Senate campaign. He lives in Texas, very far away from D.C. They spend a lot of time in D.C. Not a weird thing to say, like my wife's doing a lot of heavy lifting on this, and yet the feminists inside of his party were outraged, and he had to go and apologize.
You can't win by apologizing all the time.
Well, and someone who is apologizing, Chelsea Clinton. Remember this from a couple days back. She's apologizing for going after Congresswoman Omar and her anti-Semitic remarks. There's more on that story, but first, listen to Chelsea's apology.
After all that you have done and all this homophobia that you have sowed.
I'm so sorry. Well, certainly it was never my intention. I do believe words matter. I believe we have to show
They do matter. And this right here is the result of a massacre stoked by people like you and the words that you will put out into the world. And I want you to know that, and I want you to feel that deep inside. 49 people died because of the rhetoric that you put out there. I don't think...
What does "I'm sorry you feel that way" mean? What does that mean?
Chelsea was obviously at this vigil to mourn the 49 people killed in New Zealand. It wasn't good enough for these activists.
Yeah, it's now 50 people who died because of Chelsea Clinton, according to these activists. Now, they went, took to BuzzFeed and wrote an article, the folks that confronted Chelsea Clinton, to explain their argument, and they basically further explained their insanity. They wrote, many have said it was unfair to connect Chelsea's words to the massacre in Christchurch. To them, we say that anti-Muslim bigotry must be addressed wherever it exists. To Chelsea Clinton, we hope that our intentions in confronting you are now clear. We believe that you still owe an apology not only to Representative Omar, but also to Palestinians for using your platform to defame their cause. And if you read the op-ed, it is it's a bad term paper of intersectionality, politics, of a blame game. It's a window into the insanity of the left today.
Donald Trump Jr. is somebody who came very quickly, actually, to the defense of Chelsea Clinton, who, by the way, is very pregnant right now. And here's what he had to say. It's sickening to see people blame Chelsea Clinton for the New Zealand attacks because she spoke out against anti-Semitism. We should all be condemning anti-Semitism and all forms of hate. Chelsea should be praised for speaking up. Anyone who doesn't understand this is part of the problem. And I think what's interesting...
When the Trumps defend the Clintons.
Right, it's interesting, right?
There you have it.
It's interesting, but I will say one of the things that was not in the article that those ladies wrote, was it Rose Asaf and Lean Dwork, the tweet from Omar, which, again, the criticism of Omar is in the context of this tweet, which says, Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel. So lots of talk about Muslim bigotry, no talk about what Omar said about the Jewish people.
You go back to that video, and I don't know if we've got it, just to show the confrontation. That's what Joe Biden is up against. That's why he's saying at that podium, I'm the most progressive candidate running. He's saying it, therefore it shall be so.
He's going to have left-wing activists coming after him about things he said on race years ago. All of a sudden, it's a new environment for him. Look, you should be speaking out against anti-Muslim bigotry, anti-Jewish bigotry, all of it. But Chelsea Clinton is someone who has spoken out against anti-Muslim bigotry.
Not good enough.
And she, in this case, was talking out and protesting anti-Semitism, and all of a sudden she's confronted.
Not
it's
good
nonsense.
enough. Not pure enough. Not for the left.
Pure enough. Well, we're going to get to some headlines right now. Investigators recover another victim in the horrific New Zealand mosque attacks, raising the number of dead to 50. 36 others remain in the hospital, 2 in critical condition. In the wake of the heinous shooting attacks, the Prime Minister is vowing to ban semi-automatic weapons. Cabinet members are expected to meet tomorrow to discuss the changes to gun laws. 1 person is dead and 2 are missing as record flooding pounds the Midwest. Nebraska troopers using boats and large vehicles to rescue people trapped in rising floodwaters. The rush of snowmelt and rainfall forcing a bridge to partially collapse near Omaha. The worst could still be to come, with parts of the Missouri River expected to crest at nearly 30 feet on Thursday. It's March Madness selection Sunday. I'm going to hand that to you.
All right, fine. And the teams are punching their tickets to the big dance. Duke beating Florida State 73-63 to win the ACC championship. Defending national champs, the Villanova Wildcats captured a 3rd straight Big East title with a squeaker, 74-72 over Seton Hall. It was a fun game to watch. And Tennessee beating Kentucky 82-78 to play in the SEC championship game. They face Auburn today. Of note, Florida got beat. My squad, former squad, Princeton got beat, and Minnesota Gophers got beat, and the Wisconsin Badgers got beat. So rough across the board. But madness is coming today.
All
right, well, go ahead, Ed.
As the Venezuelan people suffer under the brutal Maduro regime, thousands in America are now protesting President Trump instead of Maduro. Can that be true?
What do we want? U.S. out! What do we want now? What do you want to say to Donald Trump?
You, Donald Trump. All your abuses of power off.
Oh, gosh. Our own Griff Jenkins was there in the middle of that
Brave
crowd
guy.
in D.C. He gives us a look straight ahead.
Really thoughtful stuff. Plus, he may have lost in 2016, but our next guest says Bernie Sanders will be the Democratic nominee for 2020. I agree. He gives us 5 reasons why coming up next.
But first, here's more from the New York Metro Pipe Band and the Irish Dancers.
Who will be the Democratic nominee trying to face the president? It's anyone's guess at this point.
But our next guest already has a prediction. He says there are 5 reasons why it will be Bernie Sanders. Tom Del Beccaro, former chairman of the California Republican Party. Tom, thanks for being here. We saw your op-ed at foxnews.com. Great stuff. You say number 1 reason, anti-establishment supporters he has.
Yeah, he has the most committed voters, and thanks for having me on. There's no question. In California, they almost took over the Democrat Party. They are very committed, these Bernie Sanders supporters, and they feel he was ripped off. And by the way, that sounds a lot like who won in 2016, committed voters who were anti-establishment. So right out of the bat, Bernie has a core supporters because, of course, he's run nationwide already, and that gives him a base that these other candidates simply don't have.
Right, and the Republican nominee in 2016 had a clear and consistent message.
Yeah, absolutely. When you run for president the first time, really, you know this, when you interview people, the first time they say something, they can ramble. It isn't very clear. They're trying to find their message. First-time candidates do that all the time. Not Bernie Sanders. He's incredibly consistent. You can argue about that. His consistency would be bad for America, but you can't argue about the fact that he knows what to say and when to say it, and that gives him a leg up on these other people who will be making gaffes.
You're right. You were watching other candidates find their footing. He's very clear about what he believes. The third reason, you mentioned it already, he's already run a nationwide campaign.
Yeah, it's really hard to run a campaign nationwide. You have to actually set up organizations throughout the country. And that's not easy to do. It takes a lot of manpower, it takes money, but he's already done it once. And like I said, in the early primary state of California, he has a good organization already. So whereas the other candidates, some of which will have to skip certain states because they don't have the organization or the money, not Bernie. He's got people there already.
Tom, I want to challenge you on number 4. You say it's a crowded field of candidates. Couldn't that hurt him because there are other people trying to take his socialist message?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's sort of, we have to look at it from the opposite point of view here. Since Bernie has the early committed voters, 15, 20% of the Democrat electorate, that's enough in a crowded field to win a primary. He could win Iowa with 21%, whereas a Biden or someone else, Kamala Harris, may only get 12%. So the crowded field actually, in a perverse way, helps him because he has the early committed voters, and all those other people running take away from Joe Biden potentially, and from Harris. So I think he wins Iowa, he wins New Hampshire, and then what are they going to say? Bernie, you can't lead?
Well, it's true. Briefly, Tom, last point. You say running for president is different. Why?
Yeah, it's 100% different. In the olden days, in 2000, you had to have a lot of money and a strong organization. Now you have the internet. Now you have Twitter. And Bernie has an army out there. The internet makes... Look at Beto. He's otherwise insignificant congressman who's suddenly on the national stage. Bernie's people are committed.
We shall
put
see,
all
Tom.
those things together. He's the early front runner. I think he wins Iowa, wins New Hampshire, and then I don't know how the Democrats say no to him 2 times.
I agree with you.
All right, we'll see how it all plays out, Tom. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Meanwhile, outrage growing after the accused New Zealand gunman streams his massacre on social media. Now big tech facing a big backlash. Should they be doing even more to stop evil content? An important discussion is next.
Some quick headlines for you. A U.S. Navy veteran sentenced to 10 years in an Iranian prison. The attorney for Michael White telling the AP his client was convicted of insulting Iran's supreme leader. Don't do that. And posting private information. He was detained in July after traveling to Iran to visit a woman he met online. Also an interesting choice. And Google is responding after President Trump and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff accused the tech giant of helping the Chinese military. In a statement, a Google spokesperson said, quote, "We're not working with the Chinese military. We are working with the U.S. government, including the Defense Department." I don't know. I believe General Dunford. Rachel, down to you.
Thanks, Pete. We're going to turn now to the tragedy in New Zealand. The death toll is now rising to 50 following the massacres at 2 mosques. And now outrage is growing over social media's role in giving the accused killer a platform to live stream the terror attacks. So what responsibility do big tech giants have in screening and taking down these disturbing images? Here to discuss is cyber experts Kurt Knudsen and Morgan Wright. Thank you for joining us this morning.
You bet, Rachel.
Rachel, good morning.
So I'm going to start with you, Kurt. How did this happen?
You know, good question, because Facebook, as you know, live streamed this. For 17 minutes, this video went out, and then people propagated that video to other services like YouTube and across to Twitter and on Instagram. And what I know is that most of these tech companies, including Facebook, have the ability to find out essentially more than anyone in your family about you. And they know and can predict a lot of your own behaviors. So why can't they predict that someone is going to be able to do something this horrific and alert police? And at the same time, they have video algorithms that can tell what's going on, distinguish it between a video game, and why can't they stop a video like this or tag it in a way where they can withdraw that video later? There are a lot of things that these tech companies are not focused on, and that includes our safety. They're focused on their own profits. And so they use those algorithms to make money. They don't use those algorithms to protect us.
Well, Morgan, they do use those algorithms to deplatform many conservatives. So are they not focused on this? Is this a Facebook fail?
It's a huge Facebook fail, and let me tell you why, Rachel. In June of 2016, it's when a French police officer and his partner was killed, and then the jihadists streamed that right after the murder for another 10 minutes before he was killed by police. Facebook's response at that time said, well, we're putting more people, we're using artificial intelligence. Well, 2.5 years later, their AI platform has failed, and there's one reason why. I think they're stalling because, look, as much as everybody wants to believe artificial intelligence is this panacea and silver bullet, it's not. We're still at a point where humans can recognize and do things million times faster than computer can when it comes to looking at, is it a terrorist act or is it just a Mardi Gras celebration with a bunch of firecrackers? So
Right.
Facebook is still a long ways away from actually implementing what they claim they can do now.
Well, I want to very quickly get Facebook's comments on this. They tweeted in the first 24 hours, we removed 1.5 million videos of the attack globally, of which over 1.2 million were blocked at upload. We continue to work around the clock to remove violating content using a combination of technology and people. So in light of this, and I'll throw it to both of you, what should Facebook be doing to deal with hate speech on their platforms?
Yeah, we're talking about, that's Maya Garlick, that's actually based in Australia, New Zealand, who said that within minutes that they removed that video initially from Facebook. Although when you ask them today, they don't even say how long. Well, how quickly did you remove that? How many minutes? They refuse to even get into the details of this. I just want to tell you this. Facebook, Instagram, all of these companies have a great responsibility to do a whole lot better for us, and they're not doing it now, for sure.
Morgan, quickly.
Yeah, look, there's a couple ways to do this. One of them is simply through policy. If you're a verified user, like they put the blue check mark on Twitter and on Instagram, you might be able to stream live right away. Other people, you might be delayed 5 minutes so that those algorithms, which are still slow, can kick in and say, hey, look, this is not a type of video that should be getting out to the internet. There's a lot of ways they could approach it. They just chose not to do it because Kurt nailed it. It's all about the money.
Well, that's a very practical solution. Maybe they're listening. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Very important topic. Thank you so much.
You bet, Rachel.
All right. Police now arresting the man they say shot and killed this reputed mob boss. The big twist, what we just learned about the suspected killer. And you've heard of St. Patrick, but what about St. Baldrick? Why volunteers are shaving their heads right here on Fox and Friends next.
Not to be melodramatic, but literally the future of the world depends on us right now. Corporations are people, money is speech, and corporations therefore can spend unlimited amounts of money to purchase elections. When have we first alienated every single trading partner we have, as this country has done under Trump's leadership? Let's fix our democracy, and then we can fix this country.
Whoa.
He's getting a lot of attention for these arm movements. And
yeah. Literally. Now, well, someone who could do a better impression than I can, Jimmy Fallon, they're finally discovering that there's plenty of comedy on the left.
They've been picking on the president for a while.
Yeah, maybe someone else could. Here he was just recently. Listen.
Hi, I'm Beto O'Rourke, and I'm excited. That's it. I'm just excited. Oh yeah, I'm also running for president of the United States. The question I get most is, can you actually beat Donald Trump? And the answer is, heck yeah. I was born to do this. I'm like if your friend's hot dad had the energy of a golden retriever. Ruff! Thanks, Evelyn. God, I feel so passionate right now. I love America. I love democracy. I love air. You can trust me. There's not a dishonest bone in my body. Actually, there aren't any bones in my body. I donated those too. So look, are there more experienced candidates out there with clearer policy ideas? Sure.
I mean, that was good.
Pretty good. You know, he also got criticized, not just for his arm movement, but I love that they used that clip because he got criticized for his wife not speaking during that segment.
The left was mad about
they were
that.
mad.
Why didn't we hear from her? And,
Right.
and I think Jimmy Fallon had fun with it. But also, he showed you can tease politicians, you can have fun. They should be self-deprecating and all of that, politicians, and take it. But it doesn't have to be mean-spirited. They're teasing him.
Yeah.
With Trump, it's like, let's murder him.
Maybe they're listening to Jay Leno. Like, have fun with all sides a little bit. And
Jimmy Fallon's always been a little better than the rest about that.
So what do you think? Friends at FoxNews.com. What's up with the hand movements?
Too much? Not enough.
Maybe you like it. He's got energy.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get to some headlines after your energy. A major twist in the murder of notorious mob boss Frankie Cali. Police arrested Anthony Comello in New Jersey. Media outlets report the men got in a fight because Cali did not like Comello hanging around his niece. Authorities say the suspect shot and killed the Gambino mob boss outside his Staten Island home. Police say Comello had no criminal history. Lawmakers in New Mexico want to replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. The bill passed the State House and Senate and sits on the governor's desk. Supporters say the change would recognize discrimination against Native Americans and better reflect the culture. Just call him Sheriff Deputy Shaq. Basketball legend Shaquille O'Neal is sworn into a Florida sheriff's office as an auxiliary deputy. He's already met with the sheriff to discuss ways police can work with communities. This is not Shaq's first law enforcement gig. In 2006, he was sworn in as a deputy in Arizona. And those are your headlines. Rick?
Arizona.
Yep.
Arizona. Home state. There you go. All right, let's talk a little weather out there. A lot going on. Obviously, we had the big storm this week. It's kind of changed our weather pattern over the next, probably, say, a week or so. People who were getting all the rain, not going to get rain. People who weren't getting rain, now going to get some rain. Here you go. Here's your temperatures waking up. Cooler air still has settled in behind that very big storm. And Florida, where you've been so incredibly dry for so much of the winter, it's the one spot where we're seeing kind of a burgeoning drought go on. Now, the next couple of days, you're going to be getting some of that rain. You see those scattered showers. That's going to be kind of with us for the next couple of days. In across parts of the Ohio Valley, one little system dropping through, a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow, nothing that's going to cause any big problems on the roadways, and nothing that's going to exacerbate this flooding that we have going on. It's going to be a flooding story, I think, for the next number of weeks, and if eventually we get the rain coming back into that area, I think things are going to be even worse. But obviously you see all of those rivers there that are dealing with flooding. Overall, though, you take a look at the future radar, not much going on anywhere except for that Florida scattered showers, and that's going to be the case for the next number of days, which is some great news. All right, Pete and Ed, what's going on?
Rick,
come on over.
How you doing?
I'm good. Good morning.
To see you.
We've got something special.
Well, you've heard of St. Patrick, but have you heard of St. Baldrick's?
The St. Baldrick's Foundation is dedicated to raising money for kids with cancer by encouraging volunteers to shave their heads in exchange for some healthy donations.
Some of those volunteers are here today, along with John Bender, founder and board member of St. Baldrick's. John, thanks for being here this morning.
Good morning, Pete. Thanks for having us.
Happy St. Patty's Day. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your platform with the St. Baldrick's Foundation.
Well, of course. Tell us about your cause.
Well, our cause, the St. Baldrick's mission, is basically to find a more humane cure for every childhood cancer in the world. Right now, 300,000 children will be diagnosed each year with childhood cancer. That's one kid every 2 minutes, which is too much. 4 out of 5 will survive. Losing one child is too many, losing that many is way too many. And even the kids that survive, 2 out of 3 will have lifetime side effects that'll affect infertility, heart, breathing, cognitive issues. So we've got a lot of work to do. The foundation has made a lot of progress over time, but there's a lot of work to be done, and these folks here are giving up their heads in solidarity with those children who lose their hair.
We're here in the Clippers, and Ed might even be active back there.
How do people find out more about your organization if they want to get involved, want to donate?
Yeah, we've got a website. It's www.stbaldricks.org. You can get involved by making donations on the website. You can start an event. You can sign up to shave in an event during your location. This year, right now, we've got over 24,000 people shaving their heads at 900 events in, I think, 10 countries right now. So we've grown significantly over time. We've become the largest funder of childhood cancer research in the world, other than the U.S. government right now.
Wow.
Granting over $260 million in funds for research since 2005.
Now, Karen, this is your 9th year.
Yes, it is.
Getting your head shaved.
Yep.
You are very bald right now.
And it's cold out.
And it's cold. And our own Ed Henry is shaving as well. We'll get to you, Ed. Karen, talk to me about why you do this. This is your 9th year.
I do this because I don't want to see any child have to go through cancer. The treatment and the side effects. I just want to conquer cancer, wipe it off the face of the earth.
Amen. Well said.
You have a really great shaped head. So
That's what people always say.
You don't know that until you shave.
Now, Ed, can you do you got to start in the front, Ed. I think you need. Ed, she's getting her head shaved.
I know, but I want to make sure I do right and cut the top of her head. This is a wonderful cause. I don't want to disrupt it and she's a little nervous.
I think Ed needs a little bit of
Ed, Rick, help out Ed.
Listen,
so Ed is doing what is known as the delicate
Can I ask you a question? Once you shave it, do you wear a wig or you just leave it?
Here, Ed.
You know what? I myself was a cancer patient 10 years ago. That was when I first shaved my head for St. Baldrick's when I was diagnosed with cancer. I never wore a wig when I had it. I never wear a wig now.
People probably ask you, and you're able to promote the cause. Yeah, great.
Now, we got Ed and Rick. We got two people. Karen, you were brave. It quickly happened. Ed is being delicate back there. You can't see behind you, but it's the worst head shave of all time from Ed Henry.
They agreed to get their head shaves by professionals.
It's true.
My dad was a barber.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
That's right. I have a lot of work.
Hey, I want to thank all of you. We recognize the importance of this cause. We're having fun with it this morning. We know it's deadly serious, and we thank the St. Baldrick's Foundation for being here. This cause is amazing, and Ed Henry by the 7 o'clock hour might be done with his head shaving. We shall see. All right, thank you all. We'll see you later on in the program as well. Well, to another issue, hands off Venezuela. As the Venezuelan people suffer under the brutal Maduro regime, thousands are now protesting President Trump.
This is being perceived as a march for Nicolas Maduro, who's been labeled a human rights violator.
I don't know nothing about that, but I know about human rights violations here.
Our own Griff Jenkins was there in D.C., gives us a look coming up next. And Ed Henry's still struggling behind me. And Shake Shack now shaking things up for a 4-day work week. How is this next? Does the move show a bigger trend in the economy? Come on, Ed. Come on.
All right, protests continue in Venezuela in opposition to Nicolas Maduro's regime.
Meanwhile, in the U.S., hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets this weekend to protest President Trump and his strategy for Venezuela.
Oh, Griff Jenkins was in Washington for the Hands Off Venezuela rally. He joins us now. Griff, what were you seeing out there?
Well, I was seeing hundreds of folks saying no to the coup, no to sanctions, no to the oil embargo, and no to what they think will be military intervention, guys. Take a look.
What do we want? U.S. out! What do we want now?
Hundreds of protesters under the banner of the Answer Coalition turning out here in Washington to send a message, hands off Venezuela. What do you want to say to Donald Trump?
You, Donald Trump. All your abuses of power. Off.
Donald Trump should look outside the White House and see, here we are, the American people beginning to build a new movement for peace and justice, disagreeing wholeheartedly with his policy. Only Venezuela should determine its own destiny. We're saying no sanctions, no war, no coup against Venezuela.
Be aware that the people of the U.S. are going to stop this war.
But there is no war. The president has joined some 50 countries trying to help Juan Guaido be the rightful president there.
Juan Guaido is not elected. Juan Guaido was named and he declared himself president. Sanctions are war.
This is being perceived as a march for Nicolas Maduro, who's been labeled a human rights violator by more than 50 countries.
I don't know nothing about that, but I know about human rights violations here. And we stand with the people of Venezuela.
There are Venezuelans who would like to see the president of Venezuela change, like in any country. But, you know, I don't think we would like it if Russia decided to one day name Nancy Pelosi president of the United States. That's not the way our democratic process works.
Well, a group of Venezuelans who oppose the protesters turned out here. They're much smaller in number, but causing a little bit of a scene as they shout at these protesters. Why are you so angry at him?
No, I want to have a conversation with the folks over there who are spreading misinformation. We have a dictator in Venezuela taking basic human rights from the people.
You ask one of them, and they don't have a clue. They don't even speak Spanish. Venezuelans have been on a dictatorship, a communist dictatorship, since 1999. Everything is run by the government. There is no food, there is no power, there is no security. Nothing is safe in Venezuela.
So this is the same group, guys, that opposed the war in Iraq, and now they're opposing what they think is going to be a war in Venezuela, and they hold the Democrats just as responsible as they do President Trump.
How big was that crowd?
So that crowd, Rachel, was probably 1,000 to 1,500. It was a nice day, and we see protests get larger on nice days and smaller during bad days. But it was the same group that began opposing the war in Iraq, and I covered them back in 2003. And by 2004, at the height of it, they had more than 500,000 marching across the Memorial Bridge. So it will be interesting to see how the administration handles what's happening in Venezuela. We saw yesterday Senator Tim Kaine, a Democrat from Virginia, down on the Colombia border trying to get U.S. aid into that country. So if you see a bipartisan move to escalate things in Venezuela, you're going to see these folks turn out in larger numbers.
Griff, thank you. Answer traditionally they're known as international Marxists. They're Workers' Party types. No surprise they're with these socialists.
If they spent a week in Venezuela where people have to go through garbage to find their dinner, they might not be as enthusiastic at that march.
On paper, it looks great, though.
Yeah.
All right, well, President Trump using his first veto after Congress rejects his border emergency. A sheriff who was with the president when he signed it joins us next hour. Why he says Congress needs to acknowledge the crisis at the border.
And Shake Shack now shaking things up with a 4-day work week. Fox Business Network, Susan Lee is here to tell us it could be hard to execute.
It seems like a decent idea.
Yeah, not bad.
Doctors perform abortions. The proposal would let some registered nurses, physician assistants, and certified midwives do the procedure. Now, she proposed a similar bill last year, and it failed. And a new bill in Missouri would require all residents ages 18 to 35 to buy an AR-15 rifle. Pete is moving to Missouri. The proposal would give everyone 1 year to purchase a firearm. Adults prohibited from buying a gun are excluded. The bill does not specify if there are consequences for people who do not comply.
Bingo.
All right, Shake Shack employees are getting a taste of a 4-day work week. That sounds great.
Company testing the idea in some of its Las Vegas locations in the hopes of attracting and retaining workers in a tight labor market.
So is this a recipe, get it, for success? Here to react. Susan Lee from the Fox Business Network. What do you think?
Okay, so the restaurant business, like the TV news business, right? Long hours. Rarely do you get a 2-day weekend. Ahem.
Other than Pete.
Right, other than Pete, yes. But
listen, I work 2 days a week for 4 hours. All right?
So you're already on it.
Don't ask for more.
Yes. Well, okay, so it's a tight labor market, so it's hard to find great talent, hard to retain them. And the restaurant business is booming. Americans are eating out once again thanks to the strong economy. We saw record growth last year in foot traffic. So Shake Shack's trying something different because they have a 70% turnover rate with their employees. So they're thinking, okay, let's go to a 4-day work week. Basically, pay them for 40 hours. They work 32, and maybe more of them will stay at this point. They did do a trial last year in New Zealand, and there have been numerous
And how did
studies.
that work out?
Well, it worked out well because this smaller company, a smaller private company called Perpetual Guarantee, they basically gave them a 4-day work week, and it improved productivity, 24% improvement in work-life balance. They saw more of their kids. They came back to work more energized.
I can totally see why this would work.
Yeah, well, there are some great benefits, ancillary benefits as well, because there's a 20% reduction in rush hour traffic.
That's true. But if you're paying for 40 hours but only working 32, that's just a wage increase.
Well, yes, you're right. It is like a wage increase as well, but you're also giving the employees more time to do whatever they want, right? It brings them happiness. They get to see more of their kids. And, by the way, women would probably benefit most from this because women who have kids obviously do more of the child rearing, and so they're working part-time and probably as productive at this point, but they get paid for the full amount they
Seems
actually
like another
do.
sign of
Women prefer time more than money.
Yes, as you know.
Yeah.
Seems like another sign of a strong Trump economy. You look at the job opens in January, we've got the figure 7.58 million, just shy of an all-time record set back in November. It also outnumbers the unemployed by 1 million.
Yeah, that was a big number.
It seems like companies like Shake Shack need to be competitive because they're trying to hire people.
Yeah.
The economy's strong.
Well, as you said, 1 million job gap between those looking for work and the jobs that are available at this point. And Shake Shack, I would have to say that this probably goes more for the supervisory roles, since most of their workers, especially the ones that you see in the storefront, they're going hour by hour, so they're still paid per hour. This is more for the supervisor roles. But wage gains, by the way, for the non-supervisory work, especially in these limited service restaurants like Shake Shack, booming at 4.5% in the year to January. That's 1% more than every other industry.
So you don't have to mandate wage increases. What you have to do is have a great economy and demand for workers, and suddenly the wages go up.
Yeah.
Interesting how that happens.
How do we get on the Pete work schedule? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
2 days a week, 4 hours a day.
4 hours a day.
I challenge you.
Full salary.
You refer to him as great talent. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, thank you, Susan.
It only takes moderate.
A Fox News alert. A 13th Democrat is now entering the 2020 race for president. We can do this almost every day. The official announcement, who it is, next.
Plus, former economic advisor to President Obama, Robert Wolf, Sarah Carter, and Maria Bartiromo, all here live and coming up.
Guitars and drummers go crack.